Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, and this is a tutorial on how I made this Milkmaid Basque gathers dress. Okay, as you can see right here, it also have an elastic sleeve. So let's get started for this tutorial. So the first thing first is to get your pattern paper, your fabric. Now I'll be using this fabric and Cara fabric to make this tutorial. I think I used about 4 yards or 4.5 yards of fabric to make this tutorial. So from the top of my paper, I will minus 5 inches before taking every other measurement because this is an off-shoulder dress. So from that 5 inches, I'll go ahead and mark my bust point, which is 10 inches. Okay, as you can see me right here, that means I minus 5 inches before taking all my vertical measurement because this is an off-shoulder. So I went ahead and marked 10 inches for my bust point. The next line to mark is my underbust. Now I'll still place it on that 5 inches and I'll mark my underbust, which is 14 inches, as you can see me doing right here. And I'll just go ahead and mark my half length. Okay, the next line I'll just go ahead to mark is my half length, like so, as you can see me doing, and I'll just go ahead and connect all the lines as you can see me doing right here. So this is my underbust line and this is my half length. Okay, as you can see right here. So the next thing I'll just go ahead to do for my backs is to come down by 5 inches. Now you can do 5 inches, you can do 4 inches. Okay, so I came down by 5 inches for my backs effect, like this, from my waistline. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and connect all the lines together. So I have my bust point, I have my underbust, I have my half length, and I have my backs. That's the extended waist length. Okay, so the next thing I'll just go ahead to do is to come up by 2 inches for my chest line. Okay, I'll come up by 2 inches for my chest line, like so. Okay, as you can see me doing right here, and I'll just go ahead and label it my chest line. So the next thing I'll just go ahead to do is on this shoulder line, I will go ahead and mark my shoulder measurement. After marking the shoulder measurement, I will come in by 1.5 inches. Okay, I went ahead to divide my shoulder by 2, and whatever I have I marked, and I minus 1.5 inches because this is an off shoulder. So the next thing I'll just go ahead to do is on the chest line, I'll divide my bust circumference by 4 and I'll go ahead and mark. And using my ruler, the copy side of my ruler, I'll go ahead and connect from my neckline to, that is from my shoulder to meet my chest line. Okay, as you can see right here. So the next thing I'll just go ahead to do is to still input my bust circumference on my bust point, and I'll come down to my waistline and divide my waist circumference by 4 and I'll go ahead and mark. Okay, as you can see right here. So let me repeat the process again. I divided my shoulder by 2 and I minus 1.5 inches, and I went ahead to mark, and I divided my bust circumference by 4 and I went ahead to mark on my chest line, and my waist circumference by 4 and I went ahead to mark it on my waistline, and I connected them like so. Okay, as you can see right here. So the next thing I'll just go ahead to do is to extend the waistline slantly to meet the back's length, like this. Okay, as you can see right here. So when I'm done, I'll just go ahead and add my 1.5 inches sewing allowance from my chest line to meet my waistline, like so. Okay, as you can see me doing right here, and this is what we have. So this will not be having any dots because it's dartless. So now the next thing I'll just go ahead to do right now is to cut the back pattern. Now remember, this dress is in 3 folds. That is the from the shoulder to the underbust, and from the underbust to the waistline, and from the waistline to the gathers. Okay, so the next thing I'll just go ahead to do is to cut the back pattern. Okay, so draft the back pattern, and I'll just go ahead and mark 1.5 inch for my zipper allowance like this, and I'll just go ahead and connect. Now every other thing for the front is the same, it's just the zipper and the Basque effect. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and place my front pattern starting from the zipper allowance that I marked earlier, like so, as you can see right here. And I'll just go ahead and mark the half length, which is the waistline, because I don't want the Basque effect on the back. If you want the Basque effect on the back, you can just go ahead and cut it like this. Okay, but for me, I do not want the Basque effect on the back side of the dress. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and extend my waistline like this, as you can see me doing right here. So I'll go ahead and cut every other shape. So every other shape will be the same. Now on the waistline, I'll just go ahead and come in by half of an inch, because I want to eliminate any form of zipper bulge on that side. I don't want my zip to bulge, and I'll just go ahead and connect like so. Okay, as you can see me doing right here. So the next thing I'll still go ahead to do is to come up by half of an inch on this half length. Okay, on the waistline area, I'll just go ahead and come up by half of an inch and connect it like so, as you can see me doing. So all this forms is to avoid any zipper bulge on this back side. Okay, and all these places I'm marking right now are places that will not be in the dress, or that will not be needed in the pattern anymore. Yes, so the next thing I'll just go ahead to do is to cut the pattern like so. Okay, as you can see me showing you right here. So if you want a Basque on your own dress, you can just go ahead and cut it along with the Basque. Yes, but I don't want a Basque on it, so this is how I will cut it. Just watch how I will be cutting my pattern. So at first, I'll just go ahead to cut the waistline first of the back pattern, and I will follow the shape of the front pattern. Now remember to place your front pattern properly on the back pattern, so that all the shapes will be equal. Everything you have on your front pattern will be the same thing with what you have on your back pattern. So I'll just go ahead and follow the shape of the pattern like so, as you can see me showing you right here. So you can see the shape of our front pattern is already on the back pattern. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and keep the back pattern aside and cut the remaining parts of the front pattern. So this is our front pattern, and for the back pattern, I'll just go ahead and cut off those zipper bulge elimination that I did on all sides like this, as you can see me showing you right here. So this is what we have. This is our front pattern, and this is our back pattern. Okay, like so. So the front pattern, I'll just go ahead and divide it. My underbust will be different like this. From the shoulder to the underbust is one part, like so, as you can see me doing right here. Yes, from the shoulder to the underbust is one part, and from the underbust to the backs is the second part, and for the gathers is the third part. Okay, so that's what we have. So I've gone ahead to transfer my pattern to my fabric, and I'll be explaining every part of it here. So this is from the underbust to the backs. I went ahead to add half of an inch on the upper side and half of an inch on the lower side. So this was cut on fold. Okay, this was cut on fold, and I went to cut 2 pieces for this one. That is one for the main fabric and one for the lining. Okay, so the next part is the shoulder to underbust, as you can see right. So this, I went ahead to cut 2 pieces of this particular pattern. Okay, and I extended it with 12 inches. That means I added 12 inches extra to the width of the pattern paper. Okay, that is using my fabric. Yes, I added 12 inches when cutting the fabric, and to the upper side I added 1.5 inches. That is for folding allowance, so that our rope can pass into it. Okay, and remember I said I cut it like it's 2 pieces of it, one side for one fabric for each side of it. So the next one is the back pattern. I forgot to add an allowance on this upper side of the shoulder. Please, you can add half of an inch allowance for folding, and for the side I did not add any allowance because I've added it already on my pattern paper. And for the lower side I added half of an inch, like so, okay, as you can see right here. And this is the sleeve. So for the sleeve I went ahead to cut it off camera, so sorry about that. For the width of the sleeve I did 14 inches on fold for the width of the sleeve, and for the length of the sleeve I did 22 inches for the length of the sleeve. Okay, remember I said for the width I did 14 inches on fold, and for the length I did 22 inches. So I'll just go ahead and fold it into equal halves like this, and I'll place my front armhole curve side on the sleeve like this, as you can see right here, and I'll just go ahead and trace that shape of the armhole, okay, like this, as you can see me doing. So what I went to do was to come down by 1.5 inches from the top of the sleeve before placing my armhole curve, okay, because I'll be folding that upper side to pass in my elastic. So that was why I came down by 1.5 inches before taking the armhole curve. So the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to join the upper bodies of the front dress together. That is, I'll come up by 5 inches and I'll go ahead and sew like this, okay. I'll go ahead and join them together. I'll come up by 5 inches from the down part and I'll go ahead and sew, okay, as you can see right here. So guys, I am done sewing it like so, okay. I'm done sewing it, as you can see right here. And the next thing is to fold in this open part of the upper sides. I'll just go ahead and fold it and sew it, okay. When I'm done, I will also mark my 1.5 inches that I added, and I'll also fold it like this. I'll fold half of an inch first before folding 1 inches. Remember we added 1.5 inches allowance for the folding, okay. So I'll just go ahead and fold this midpoint like this. I'll sew it before folding this upper part, okay, like this. So I've gone ahead to sew it. Yes, you can see how it is, and also went ahead to iron the midpoints, okay. And this is the folded upper side of it. So the next thing I went ahead to do was to sew a rope that will be passing through it. And for the underbust, I went ahead to run a loose stitch on the underbust, which I will gather. Yes, I'll go ahead and gather it off camera. So the next thing to do is to work on the underbust to the backs. So I also went ahead to cut a casing for it so that my elastic will be able to pass through it. The width of this casing is 1 inch because I'll be sewing it on both sides with 0.25 inches on both sides, okay, so that my elastic will be able to pass it, okay. So this is what you can use a bias to do this particular casing, okay. You can use a bias to do yours, but I decided to use my fabric to do mine, and I'll just go ahead and space it like this, okay, as you can see me doing right here. Now when you're spacing this, you minus your joining allowance, please. Before placing it, you minus your joining allowance, your 1.5 inches joining allowance or 2 inches allowance, depending on the allowance that you added first, so the casing will not get to your allowance, okay. So this is how my own spacing will be, and I'll just go ahead and sew on the both sides like this, okay, as you can see me showing it right here, so that my elastic will be able to pass through it like this, okay. So guys, I've gone ahead to gather the lower part, that is my underbust of the upper side of it, and I'll keep it aside. And for this backs, I am done sewing it, and this is what we have. So the next thing for me to do is to place it on this lower bodice, that is this upper side of the dress, of the front dress that I went to gather. I'll go ahead and place it on the lower bodice like this, okay. So now I'll notch the midpoint of this underbust to backs waistline, okay. I'll notch the midpoint like this, and I'll also take the midpoint of this shoulder to under bust. Okay, I'll take the midpoint of the shoulder to under bust and place it on the midpoint of the under bust to the Basque waistline. Okay, like so, as you can see me doing now. After placing the midpoint on the sides, you go ahead and minus your 1.5 joining allowance. That particular side will not be having the gathers effect. It will not be having the gathers effect. And you just go ahead and sew from one end to meet the other end. Okay, I'll just go ahead and sew from one end to meet the other end, but please let your midpoint of your shoulder to under bust and the midpoint of your under bust to your back waistline, let them align before sewing. Okay, so I'll just take it over to my sewing. And so guys, I am done sewing, and this is what we have. Okay, right here, so you can see how it is. So the next thing is to cover it up with the lining piece. Okay, I'll just go ahead and cover this rough edge with the lining piece. So I'll just go ahead and place the lining piece like so on it, like this. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and sew from one end to meet the other end. This is to cover up that gathers effect that we have, so that it will not be too rough on that side. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and cover it up like this, and when I went ahead to cover, I just went ahead to give it a good press. So the next thing is for me to pass the rope. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start from the midpoint of this upper bodice like this, and I'll just go ahead and pass it to come out on the armhole area. Okay, I'll just go ahead and pass it like this, as you can see me using my safety pin. So as you're passing it, you'll be dragging it. Okay, just like the normal way you used to pass your rope. So you just be dragging it until it comes out on the armhole area like this, and I'll just stitch, or you hold it on with a pin before stitching. Okay, so like this, I'll just go ahead and cut off the remaining part, and I'll do the same thing, and I'll be doing the same thing to the other side. Okay, so the next thing for me to do is to input my boning. So you just go ahead and pass your boning through the boning channel that we created earlier. So now what I just went ahead to do was to mark whatever I have from the underbust to meet the hem of the back waistline like this, and I minused half of an inch. Okay, I minus half of an inch so that I'll be able to sew it when I'm making my gathers. Yes, I'll be able to have a free surface when I'm making my gathers. So you just go ahead and pass the boning through the boning casing that we created earlier. Okay, like so. So I'll just go ahead and do the repeated process on all the boning channels that we created. Okay, from the underbust to meet the hem of the back waistline, and you just minus half of an inch. Okay, so that you'll be able to sew it freely when you're joining both this side and the gathers dress. So I'll just go ahead and do it on all of them, and also add my rope to the other side. So guys, I've gone ahead to pass all my bonings to the channels, and I also went ahead to pass the rope to the other side of it like this, as you can see right here. So the next thing for me to do is to work on the back pattern. So for the back, on the upper side, that is on the shoulder side of the back, I went ahead to fold it with half of an inch. Okay, remember I said I forgot to add an allowance to it, so I went ahead to fold it on the upper side with half of an inch. And the next thing for us to do now, please, when you're doing this particular back, it can be so confusing. Please notch the notch the zipper side of it so that you can identify which is the zipper side and which is the shaping side. Okay, so the next thing is to place both the back and front bodies together so that I will be able to shape them. Okay, so look at how I'm placing the sides on each other. That's both the back and the front sides together, right side facing right side. Okay, right side facing right side. Whatever I do to one end, I'll do it to the other and I'll just place the shaping sides together, and I'll just go ahead and shape with my 1.5 inches that I added earlier. Okay, I'll just go ahead and shape with my 1.5 inches that I added earlier. And for the sleeve, I also went ahead to fold it in by the 1 inches that I added as the allowance, okay, so that my elastic will be able to pass through. And also for the lower side of the sleeve, I also went ahead to fold it in by 1 inch so that my elastic will be able to pass through on that side. So for the elastic, you go ahead and minus 3 inches from your round sleeve. Okay, you go ahead and minus 3 inches from your round sleeve on the upper side, and also the same thing on the lower side of the fabric. Okay, I went ahead to minus 3 inches from my round sleeve. So when you're done passing it from one end to another, you just go ahead and shape. Okay, so guys, I am done shaping the upper side of the dress, and this is what we have. Okay, so I'm done shaping, and the next thing for me to do is to attach my sleeve to the dress. Okay, I'll attach my sleeve to the dress so you can see how it looks like after passing my elastic. So to attach my sleeve to the dress, I'll go ahead and place the shaping side of my sleeve to meet the shaping side of the upper bodice of the dress, like this. Okay, as you can see me doing, I'll just go ahead and hold it on with a pin. So when I'm done, I will just go ahead and sew. Okay, like so. As you can see me doing, I'll just go ahead and sew from one end, that is from where the armhole starts, to meet the other armhole, that is from the front armhole, from the shoulder to the armhole, to meet the back shoulder to the armhole, like this. Okay, as you can see me showing, I just go ahead and sew it from one end to meet the other end, like this. Okay, so this is how it will be. So you just go ahead and sew from one end to meet the other end. Whatever you do to one side, you will do to the other side, like so. Okay, as you can see me. So the next thing is to cut the lower side of the bodice, which is for the gathers. And for the width, I went ahead to use 3.5 yards for the width of it. And for the length, I minused my half length from my gown length. Okay, I minus my half length from my gown length, that is my shoulder to my half length from my gown length. That was what I used for the length. So when you minus your shoulder to your half length from your gown length, whatever you have, that will be the length of your gathers. Okay, so I went ahead to minus my shoulder to my half length from the gown length, as you can see me doing right here. So that will be the length. And for the width, I used 3.5 yards for the width of this gathers. Okay, so the next thing is to get the midpoint of this fabric, like so. Okay, remember it's on fold like this, so I'll just go ahead and get the midpoint on fold like this. And from the midpoint, I will come down by 2 inches from the upper side of the fabric, like this. This is the upper side and not the hem. I'll go ahead and mark 2 inches, and I'll just use my scissors and just slant, yes, from one end to meet that 2 inches. Okay, this is to help me during the back slashes when I'm joining it to the back side, the waist side of the dress. Okay, so it will make it easier for me. So I'll go ahead and run a loose stitch, and I'll gather it up to meet the waistline. Okay, so I've gone ahead to run a loose stitch, and I also went ahead to gather it like so. I also went ahead to gather it. Okay, so now I'll be placing the front bodice on it so that I'll be able to sew it on my sewing machine. Now, to do this, you mark the midpoints of your front bodice, but you can tell the midpoint of this upper bodice from the back's effect. You can tell. So you just go ahead and notch it. Okay, so that like you notch the midpoint of the upper bodice and the midpoint of the gathers effects. Okay, you go ahead and notch the two sides, the midpoints of the upper bodice and the midpoints of the gathers effect. Okay, after notching them, you place them right side facing right side like this. Okay, So I'll just go ahead and notch this gathers effect. So I'll place it right side facing right side like this, okay, as you can see me doing. And when I'm done, I'll just use my pin to hold it. Okay, I'll use my pin to hold it. Then I'll go ahead and sew from one end like this to meet the other end. Then I'll start from the midpoint again to meet the other zipper end. Now when you are placing this on your fabric, you just take note of your zipper allowance. Yes, remember we added 1.5 inches for our zipper allowance. So this gathers effects did not I did not gather it to meet the zipper side of the fabric. Okay, so you just take note of your zipper allowance and you just go ahead and sew from one end to meet the other end like this. So guys, I am done sewing and this is what we have. Okay, so you can see our dress is now taking shape. So the next now just go ahead to do is to fold it on equal halves like this, and I'll just go ahead and sew. So for my waistline, I will come down by 6 inches. Okay, I'll come down by 6 inches. After coming down by 6 inches, I'll just go ahead and sew it like this. Okay, yes, so from the waistline I'll come down by 6 inches like this and mark, and from the midpoint I will come in by 1 inch, and I'll just go ahead and sew it like this. Okay, so when I'm done sewing, I will go ahead and fix my zip to it. After fixing my zipper, I'll go ahead and hem the lower parts. Okay, so let me just repeat the same process. I said I'll come down by 6 inches from the half length, and I'll go ahead and sew it down, and I'll attach my zipper and also hem the lower part, and we're done for it. So guys, I'm done attaching my zipper, and this is what we have. I also went ahead to sew the lower side of the dress, that is the hem part of the dress. And so guys, this is the outfit. So you can see how beautiful it came out. If you've watched to this point, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye guys.